for us, like we know that the product works when we've actually established a ritual for somebody.
Welcome to Honest Ecommerce, a podcast dedicated to cutting through the BS and finding actionable advice for online store owners. I'm your host, Chase Clymer, and I believe running a direct-to-consumer brand does not have to be complicated or a guessing game. On this podcast, we interview founders and experts who are putting in the work and creating real results. I also share my own insights from running our top Shopify consultancy, Electric Eye. We cut the fluff in favor of facts to help you grow your e-commerce business. Let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honest Ecommerce. I'm your host, Chase Clymer. Today, I'm welcoming to the show Zack Schreier. Zack is the CEO of Lifestacks, a premium health company creating delicious daily rituals infused with potent supplements to boost performance and fortify long-term health. Zack, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chase. Glad to be here.
Awesome. All right. Well, quickly, Zack, let our listeners know what exactly are the products that you're selling at Lifestacks?
Yeah, sure thing. So as you mentioned a second ago, our focus is bringing really amazing, high-impact ingredients into your day in a delightful format. So basically something that's delicious and enjoyable, and it's going to boost your performance and health. And we currently have a single product in the market in that vein, which is a coffee creamer. And so, our thinking was that basically coffee is the occasion of choice for energy for Americans. Actually, something like 70% of Americans drink coffee each day. And so we thought that would be a great opportunity to deliver additional healthful and impactful ingredients. So we've got a coffee creamer with ingredients like tyrosine, taurine, rhodiola, huperzine, ginseng, really a great list of stuff. And it's actually MCT based. So MCT is a vegan and keto fat. So instead of dairy or sugar, right in your morning coffee, we've got a healthy fat to help you kickstart your day.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So where did the idea for this product come from?
Yeah, I guess to sort of sneak up on where we're at right now, I'll go back to my sort of origin story, or at least pertaining to health and business. So in sixth grade, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And basically that kind of makes you like the steward of your own health in a way that's pretty intense and ongoing. Like there's no days off from type 1. And that got me interested in all things health and performance, particularly because I saw that every little thing I did would impact my sugar in one way or another. So whether that's just meal timing, meal quality, meal quantity, exercise, at different intensities, sleep, sickness, everything. And so that sort of kickstarted my interest in food and in fitness. And I actually founded the company before this one called Quevos. We made chips from egg whites. The idea was, for somebody like me or somebody watching their carbs in general, a low carb, delicious, crunchy snack would be a great option. So we developed that company. We were on Shark Tank for that in 2020. Basically at the same time that I started Quevos, I got really interested in supplementation. And, the logic is essentially that supplements are just the most potent, sort of like dense, nutrition. And if you can figure out the right combination of supplements for your body to boost performance and fortify long-term health, that could be a huge lift. And so I started looking into combinations, started looking at the basic capsule format, realized that was pretty boring. And so I wanted to figure out a way to get, these sorts of high impact ingredients into our days in a more delightful, enjoyable way. So that kickstarted Lifestacks. We had a beta version on the market in 2021, updated that, raised some money, developed the brand, and now we're relaunching, or we have relaunched a new improved and delicious version just this March.
Oh, that's fantastic. Obviously, I'm not going to let you skate over the Shark Tank experience. Talk about a bit more about the successes with Quevos and the Shark Tank situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I launched Quevos with my best friend in 2018. And that was really good timing for a product like ours because if you sort of recall, that was when keto was really taking off. I did keto in 2018. Oh yeah, there you go. Exactly. And I'm sure you remember that the buzz around keto was massive. And I'm sure your audience has heard a lot about this sort of evolution of marketing channels and things like that. 2018 was when Instagram was still a channel where you could share your product and get drive a lot of awareness and traction pretty cheaply. And so that was it was really good timing all around. We grew the company to a pretty solid size over those 2 years. We did all the manufacturing in-house. So we had to set up a facility. We had to create the product from the ground up. there's a reason there was no egg white chips before. Like, it's a pretty hard thing to actually create. And so there's a lot of troubleshooting and a lot of iteration, but we finally got a product that was great. We sold that on Shopify and Amazon, and then we got into a bunch of retail stores also. And actually Shark Tank reached out to us. So they have like it's internal team that just looks at all sorts of opportunities on the market, and then they'll reach out and invite you to apply. So we went through the whole application process, and then I guess we filmed it in 2020 and aired in 2021. And it was actually an amazing experience. We were quarantining for 8 days actually in advance of the show. So, it was just me and Nick in a 700 square foot room, kind of just, watching episodes of Shark Tank and grilling each other on Q&A. And then, by the time we made it into the tank, like we were in that mode, like really solidly. And I think we had really gone over all the different things that the sharks were liable to ask, because we had seen so much of the show. So we knew kind of what was going to come at us. And we did a pretty good job rehearsing, like the various sort of things we wanted to get across. And the producers that were communicating with us were also very helpful, like directing us, telling us what sorts of, things that the sharks would ask and how to kind of control the room a little bit. So you don't just get like, you don't just have that sort of storm that sometimes happens to people where they're like blown all over the place and they have trouble staying on their feet. So it went well, and we made a deal with Daniel Levetsky from Kind Bar. He was actually the shark we were hoping to make a deal with, because he's got experience in exactly this space. And I guess I'll sort of jump to the end and say that we had a couple good years of working on the business with Daniel and growing it, and then we just sold this January to a private buyer.
Well, congratulations on that success and a fantastic exit. And honestly, one of probably the most amazing networking experiences of your life doing that. Can we talk? I always like to ask, what was the Shark Tank bump? What happened, when the episode went live?
Yeah, sure. I think we can talk about this openly. And if not, then apologies to whatever NDA I'm violating here. But basically we talked to a lot of founders, and I should say Nick, because Nick's a better networker than I am. And he did a lot of outreach to other people that had been on Shark Tank, just to get a sense of what kind of level of boost to expect. And the prediction was that we would see a lift of $500,000 within that month post airing. And that's exactly what happened. So in the first 24 hours, it was like 300K. And then in the next 5 days, it was another 100K. And then over the next 3 weeks, it was another 100K. And then we kind of got back to the pre-Shark Tank levels plus 50%. So we saw a sustained lift. It wasn't tremendous, but it was something. And, that blitz of selling a lot of product really helped too. That made 2021 quite a good year of sales for us.
Can I ask, knowing that this is going to air and this lift, this intense amount of sales is going to happen, what were you doing on the operations side to prepare for this, to not, fall flat and not be able to fulfill the demand?
Right. Yeah. Oh, totally. We produced a shit ton of product, basically, is what we did. So, in the 3 months leading up to the show, we just stockpiled inventory. So we hired more employees, we ran more shifts, and we got more storage space, and just created just about $500,000 of surplus inventory. And of course, there could have been a lot of waste there had it not quite been that level of lift. Also, we could have sold out and then missed some opportunity, but it worked out really nicely that was the amount we sold.
Is there anything sort of interesting to you, maybe something no one would think of that you learned from that whole experience?
Yeah, I guess there were a few things. It's not that fresh in my mind anymore. I should have probably taken more notes and consolidated some more memories about it. But I think one thing that was interesting is it kind of obscured the actual fundamentals of the business. So, we had this tremendous lift in sales, but that doesn't necessarily say anything about what's going to happen in the future. It probably made for a better story than it actually did, a fundamental change to the business. But that said, I'm still very thrilled we did it, both for the awareness and because Daniel was a great mentor to us for those couple of years.
Yeah, it's almost, I always talk about this concept, and I kind of wrote about it in my book I released a little bit ago, but this idea of you can't really plan for these like act of God moments, right? Like Kanye West wearing your t-shirt or being featured on Shark Tank. That can't be your business plan. And so that won't fix a fundamentally broken product or business. And so it's refreshing, and the honesty of you saying like, it kind of like maybe we took our eye off the ball a bit with this detour. Obviously it was a fun detour, but I've heard from other founders that turned down Shark Tank because it wasn't it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah, definitely a lot of work. And I should say, I actually, I worked on the business full time from really its inception to like the middle of 2019. So that was about a year and a half of like our first period of business. But I actually took time off of college to do this. And I actually ended up going back to school during from mid 2019 through the exit, which was this January in 2023. And so my position became more like, strategist and board member alongside Nick, who was running it full time. And so, it was a lot of work, and it was especially a lot of work for Nick. And I sort of like, I was in the privileged position of just getting to hear about everything that was happening and contribute, my input, but mostly the legwork was not mine to do. So for me, I think it was a great experience. And for Nick, I think it was a great experience and also a lot of work. So you're totally right about that.
Absolutely. Now let's shift focus back to the current business, Lifestacks. Obviously, you knew the exit was on the horizon, and is that when you started to dive back into this concept and build kind of your next business? Yeah,
actually, it was before that. So in the summer of 2018 was when I really started diving into supplementation, and there were seeds of that in my sort of health and consumption history before we launched Lifestacks. Dabbling with various nutraceuticals beforehand, and even slightly more illicit stuff like modafinil, for example, is something I had tried before that for getting, work done and writing good papers and that sort of thing. Even, microdosing and whatnot. These are not recommendations, by the way. This is just my history. Gotta say that. And, actually we were pursuing it starting in 2018, kind of starting to do all the research, look at what was effective and sort of clinically validated on the market, look at all the products out there, the different combinations of ingredients, just really get the lay of the land. And shortly after that, we formulated a capsule product. So it was like, I think we had 11 really excellent ingredients that like I believed in for my own health and performance. But really we kind of wanted like daily performance as a side effect of actually improved health. So, we don't want to like override homeostasis and like get you to work harder than you actually can sustain. We want to lift your capacity and allow you to sustain a higher level of output. So that was that first product. It was really well received. People that tried it loved it and bought again. But the marketing around it was difficult because it wasn't so differentiated. It's like, who needs another capsule? And so then we learned pretty quickly towards the end of 2019. So maybe 6 months after we launched this capsule product, we'd realized that issue about the format, and just we wanted to have something that sold itself a little more, something that was just so like aha to people when they heard about it. And so we pretty quickly thought of the coffee creamer idea. And we, during 2020, the onset of COVID and right before, actually, we were working on prototyping the product. We launched a beta version of that in 2021. And then I graduated in June of 21, and then we went all in. So for now 2 years, we've been working full time on Lifestacks. And I think I mentioned already that sort of included a whole branding phase, some investment, and a lot of R&D, a lot of work on production, kind of all the fundamentals. And we've just sort of launched the business with this new product in full this year.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to take a few moments to talk about a partnership we've had at the agency for years. Electric Eye and Recharge have been partners for longer than I can remember. Recharge is our go-to solution for clients when it comes to subscriptions. At Electric Eye, we know the ins and outs of Recharge. For example, we've set up replenishment subscriptions for consumables, created countless subscribe and save campaigns, and most recently, we got a client into a Recharge beta program to utilize Recharge's dynamic bundling solution for subscriptions. We've partnered with Recharge to solve subscription, loyalty, and membership for a diverse range of clients spanning industries like food and beverage, automotive, supplements, CPG, and beauty. Not only is Recharge an incredible partner, they've been paving the way for subscription solutions longer than anyone else in the game. The product is unmatched, giving them a massive advantage against the competition. Clients often come to us because they've struggled to find agencies that truly understand how to harness the power of recharge. We're not just familiar, we're bona fide recharge experts. It's one of our specialties. It's a pain point we're happy to solve. As a top-tier recharge expert, we have unparalleled access to support and resources that ensure we'll have a successful outcome. We stay appraised of all their new feature releases and compatibilities, bundling, memberships, flows, you name it, we know it. So, if subscriptions, memberships, or loyalty are on your to-do list and you're ready to have it done, just let us know. Visit electriceye.io/recharge today to learn more about how we can tailor Recharge's robust product to your specific needs. That's electriceye.io/recharge. Let the experts at Electric Eye get it done the right way the first time. Join the ranks of our satisfied clients who partnered with us and Recharge to harness recurring revenue within their business. If you don't know what that sound is, you might be listening to the wrong podcast. That is the sound of another sale on your Shopify store. That's right, folks. We finally made it. Shopify is a sponsor of today's episode of Honest Ecommerce, and I'm here today to talk about Shopify's point of sale solution. Shopify Point of Sale is your command center for your retail store. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify has everything you need to sell in person. With Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. This has been a huge issue for clients of our agency in the past. You need your inventory to be synced in real time, and Shopify POS does just that. Connect with customers in-store and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns from TikTok to Instagram and beyond. You can get hardware that fits your business, take payments by smartphone, transform your tablet into a point-of-sale system, or use Shopify's POS Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success at every step along the way. Do retail right with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial at shopify.com/honest. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/honest, HONEST, to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/honest. All right, I want you to picture this. You're an e-commerce merchant juggling multiple platforms to manage your email marketing, SMS campaigns, and product reviews. It's a time-consuming and costly ordeal. But with SendLane, those days of chaos are long gone. SendLane brings together the power of email, SMS, and reviews all in one convenient place. So you can say goodbye to the hassle of separate tools and hello to simplified operations, increased efficiency, unified customer experience, and huge savings. And I haven't even gotten to the best part. With the all-new free SendLane reviews, you can leverage social proof to build trust and credibility with potential customers. Let me say that again, free product reviews. With SendLane, you pay for email and SMS, and you get reviews for free. SendLane understands that customer feedback is essential for the success of any e-commerce business. That's why they've made it an integral part of their platform without any additional cost to you. By unifying these key components of your tech stack, SendLane helps you save time and money, all while generating more revenue. Don't let your e-commerce tech stack hold you back. Embrace the unifying force of SendLane and take your business to new heights. Sign up today and experience the power of streamlined operations, increased efficiency, and revenue growth. Visit sendlane.com/honest to learn more and schedule your free consultation with a SendLane expert. That's sendlane.com/honest. Absolutely. Can we go back to you launched the product as a pill format? How did you get that out there into the market? What was your strategy to validate the idea? How did you get that response that made you pivot?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I'm going to say one more thing about sort of the trajectory of Lifestacks, maybe as compared to Quevos or other businesses. This was very much a project. We had an LLC and we had insurance because we were distributing, consumables. But we sort of we didn't invest a ton in terms of capital. It was more like time and passion and research, sort of driving our continued engagement with Lifestacks. And I think, I think there's a model that we pursue with Quevos where you kind of like do everything as quickly as possible and like, break things and learn and scale. And I think that was the right thing for Quevos. I think we needed to get out there and the timing was right. I think it's the right thing for a lot of businesses. But as I was doing, as I was in school, Lifestacks, I think, belonged like in this project phase for longer, so we could let things kind of like sort of naturally like brew and cultivate and simmer. And so we launched the capsule product. Actually, we had a Shopify store, no Amazon, no retail presence, and we were pretty focused actually on selling that to the college students that were around us. And we also we actually did end up selling to sort of local retailers near our college, and we would engage with the repeat customers at those stores to learn. But we ended up getting a lot of insight through Shopify. It was a pretty low level of revenue, but we had a lot of customers to talk to and to sort of ask what they liked about it, get feedback. So I don't exactly know what switch flipped that made us realize coffee, except we were hearing from a lot of people that when they would take our product alongside their cup of coffee in the morning, they would feel really sharp and really clear. Probably that was due to the L-theanine that we included in the capsule. And, caffeine and theanine is a pretty prominent nootropic combination. So yeah, I think that was what sort of catalyzed us to think, let's actually create a product that we can add directly to coffee.
Absolutely. So then you pivot, you shift, and you guys relaunched about 6 months ago. How have things been since then?
Really good. Yeah, it's been great. Our big indicator is repeat. So for us, we know that the product works when we've actually established a ritual for somebody. The ingredients we use are ingredients you should take for your lifetime. They're not just like most health interventions. It's not something you do once and then have a sustained, years long benefit. Something where the impact and the benefits accumulate. So with our product, there is that immediate effect where you feel really good and you feel really sharp. But then, ultimately we want to establish habits so people can benefit from this stuff over years. So our repeat rate has been sort of exactly what we were hoping for. We see customers come back like every single month, like clockwork. Our subscriber numbers are a pretty high proportion of our total customers. So, yes, it's going well. I think, basically, when it comes to any kind of sales, the kind of physics of business is that you ultimately you produce transactions. Those transactions go and feed the ability to basically reconstruct the precursors to those transactions. So you kind of got this like circular causality where the sort of final event of the customer purchasing it is what enables you to do all the setup to that purchase. So then you can sustain yourself over time. Obviously, if you're like taking a loss, it means that the transaction is not actually sufficient to help you regenerate the setup to produce that transaction. And so anyways, that whole thing is kind of composed of various aspects of your funnel. You've got like the awareness, you've got the conversion funnel, you've got the retention. And I think so far what we've seen is conversion's good, retention's good. Now we need to really drive much more awareness. So much more top of funnel activity. We've been pretty minimal on our spend so far, and it's been predominantly Amazon where we're selling. But now I think it's basically time for us to tell the world that we exist. And then hopefully what we see is that, the same success we've seen on conversion or retention with the subset of people that have already tried it, we hope that scales to a much broader audience.
Well, I wish you all the success with that. Now, is there anything I didn't ask you about that you think would resonate with our audience?
Well, I guess, I would take the opportunity to talk a little bit about branding, if that's all right. It's something that's very top of mind for me right now.
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, cool. So I guess let me actually return to the physics of business idea again a little bit. So the question basically is, if you don't yet have a company that exists, what are the kind of conditions under which the company could exist? And obviously you've got like the actual core of the product. So like what's inside the package. And then you've got the package, and then you've got the touch point with the consumer, which involves not only the package you're showing, but all the messaging around it, however they're hearing about it, all the stuff that goes into that. And I used to I've always I used to not appreciate just how important the branding aspect of it is. I kind of thought that was just like, you were just dressing up something, but the actual powder was the relevant stuff, not the package. But then I sort of realized that the brand is how you can firm up in somebody's mind exactly what's happening and why they should sort of repeatedly engage with what you're doing, how they can understand it so that they expect the right sorts of things. And we've recently done some branding exercises that I find super helpful. There's one exercise where you kind of try and assess your DNA. So you figure out whether at your core you're a missionary, a mechanic, or a mother. And the missionary is focused on changing the world in a particular way. The mechanic is very focused on product. So it's all about what's in it and, how do you how do all the pieces fit together, basically. And then the mother is focused on the customer. And so the mother basically goes to the customer and learns as much as possible before kind of making product decisions. And so I think that's a super helpful framework, and it's one that you can use almost as a prism for making other decisions. I think I think ultimately it's not a decision as much as it is an exercise in reverse engineering your motivations. So you kind of ask yourself, like, why am I doing this? Like, what constitutes success in my mind? And, if it's like, I've got a happy customer, then you're the mother. If it's like, I changed the world, you're the missionary. And if it's like, I created this product and it exists now, then you're the mechanic. And Lifestacks, we've discovered that we are definitely the mechanic. Like, we obsess over what goes into the formulation. We read as much as possible about all the ingredients. And one thing that's interesting about the mechanic is that they will create a product without necessarily knowing what the audience is yet. So they've got such a high confidence that they can create a good product that they kind of punt on some of those other aspects until later. And that's been how we've gone. Like, we developed the capsule and then we found customers. We learned something from the customers and then we developed a new product and then we found customers. I guess one other aspect of the mechanic is that they invest a lot in R&D and they are obsessed with new products as well. And so I guess I'll say, whether or not our coffee creamer sounds like something that your audience would love, just stay tuned because we're going to have a lot of cool stuff in the future. Absolutely.
And if they want to stay tuned or they want to check out the coffee creamer that already exists, where should they go?
Thanks so much. We've got a website, lifestacks.com. That will definitely stay up to date with new products. You can get our creamer through that website. And then we're also on Amazon, and that's where we're doing most of our business right now, but you can't go wrong either way.
Absolutely.
And to find us on Amazon, just type Lifestacks.
Awesome. I'll make sure to link to the website in the show notes. Zach, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. I'm sure that we'll chat soon again.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chase.
We can't thank our guests enough for coming on the show and sharing their knowledge and journey with us. We've got a lot to think about and potentially add into our own businesses. You can find all the links in the show notes. You can subscribe to the newsletter at honestecommerce.co to get each episode delivered right into your inbox. If you're enjoying this content, consider leaving a review on iTunes. That really helps us out. Lastly, if you're a store owner looking for an amazing partner to help you get your Shopify store to the next level, reach out to Electric Eye at electriceye.io/connect. Until next time.